Many people ask how to get rid of anger because it is an uncomfortable feeling. We don't like feeling angry. We don't like feeling hatred. But nobody has ever asked me, how can I deal with my desire and my greed? Yet greed and desire, along with ignorance, keep us trapped in samsara. But greed and desire are not really regarded as negative emotions in the West. After all, where would our consumer society be if we didn't have desire? On the whole, desire is regarded as a positive thing, especially if you can satisfy it. Desire is seen as a motivating force. It propels people to go out and buy more, and that keeps the economy churning. This is the idea behind all this. In a Pali Sutra, the Buddha said that the karmic effect of hatred are 8 times heavier than those of greed. But hatred is relatively easy to get rid of. Greed is less heavy karmically in that it may not directly cause harm to others, but it is extremely difficult to uproot because nobody sees greed as a problem. Within reasonable boundaries, we like being a little greedy. It's nice. We want nice clothes, nice food, a nice place to live. Our senses are stimulated. We have the idea that if we were not attached to all these things, we would somehow become cold, dried out, and uninteresting people. So we are not highly motivated to relinquish our desire. Khandro Rinpoche, a Tibetan Lama, once said that if you say certain words to Western audiences, they press everyone's buttons. She likes to say them and watch the reactions. One of these words is surrender. Another is renunciation. Everybody cringes when she says, we need to renounce. And everybody says, what do we need to renounce? What do I give up? And yet, renunciation is one of the main stages on the path. Renunciation doesn't necessarily mean giving up your home and family and going forth into homelessness like the Buddha did. Leaving home is not the only form of renunciation. I think in many ways, mental renunciation is much harder. It is not easy to give up cherished, though unhelpful, thought patterns and to be in the moment instead of getting caught up in our memories, anticipations, fantasies, and clever speculations. All of that is very difficult to renounce. Even if people appear to be living in great simplicity, and not many people are, they often still have a luxuriously furnished inner life. I speak from experience here. It is hard to cling to nothing at all. It is particularly hard to stop clinging to our image of who I am, to just let it all drop. We need to learn gradually how to do that. This is what Zazen is all about. You sit nakedly. Your body is not moving, your voice is not expressing, and the mind itself is letting go and just being present. Hopefully, we are not elaborating on our fantasies. Hopefully, we are sitting in a state of nakedness and absolute simplicity. This is the ultimate renunciation. We could be sitting thinking of the lovely things we did on our honeymoon or on a holiday, or we might be speculating on something that's going to happen next week, or what we're having for lunch. We could just be sitting. Nobody will ever know. We're sitting here now, all looking like a bunch of little arhats. As long as the body and the speech are under control, nobody knows what the mind is doing, right? But to renounce the games of the mind and just sit in a state of openness and clarity is the greatest renunciation. The mind is extremely greedy. It's not just greedy for external pleasures, it's also greedy for mental comforts, which are much more difficult to renounce. But if we can manage to do that, we naturally enter a state of openness, simplicity, and clarity, and this leads to the birth of understanding. This is because we have finally dealt with the root of all negativity, which is our ignorance. This type of existential ignorance cannot be removed only through learning. Of course, studying and thinking and trying to understand are good things, and they are particularly necessary for people like us from the West who don't have a background in Buddhist thought. Of course, we need to read and understand what the Buddha was saying, because otherwise we will interpret it according to our own concepts and change the teachings around to make them fit comfortably with our mental predispositions. It's very important for us to read, study, and understand. What did the Buddha actually say? What was the Buddha's intention? But that alone won't remove our unknowing, because our unknowing is not an intellectual thing. It's not on the level of our mind. It percolates through our minds, of course, so our thought patterns are also ignorant. But the underlying cause is extremely deep, as you all know. Therefore, reading, thinking, and discussing can help deal with the surface ignorance, but will not affect our underlying unknowing. This is why you are all sitting here. It's because you know that the only way to reach the very deep root of ignorance is through contacting the essential nature of the mind, through discovering who we really are. In other words, by uncovering our Buddha nature. Yesterday, when I arrived, Roshi was talking about that huge oak tree out there, and he said that he had been told that the roots go down as far as the trunk we see on top. I thought then, this is really a metaphor for ignorance. We have this much on top. If we can cut down the tree at its root, there will be no more tree of ignorance. We Westerners study very hard. We seem to know a lot. Superficially, it looks as though the tree has disappeared. All that ignorance is gone. We can give all sorts of lectures and we can get PhDs in Buddhist philosophy. But if that's all we do, the underlying root will remain untouched. And from a Buddhist point of view, they will spring up again into a new tree, maybe with even more foliage because it's been pruned. What we really need is to get right down and pull up those incredibly deep roots of ignorance. The only way to do that is to have a decisive realization of the nature of the mind. To have this experience once is not enough. It's only the beginning. My Lama always told me that once you realize the nature of the mind, that's the beginning of the path. Then you can start to meditate. Nowadays, some people get some realization of their true nature and think they're enlightened. They start writing books and setting up Dharma centers and so on. But that's really just the beginning. Until we are in contact with our true omniscient mind continually, moment to moment, without ceasing, 24 hours a day, we are not fully enlightened. That's why there are so many bodhisattva levels. Our task is to deal with our ignorance. But in the meantime, moment to moment in our everyday life, it is very important for us not only to be aware, but to exercise discernment. We must know how to discern the true intention behind everything we do, say, and think. When we recognize unwholesome things coming into the mind, we let them go. We recognize them, we accept them, we don't deny them, we don't get into a conflict about them. We see them, we recognize them, and we let them go. We encourage and rejoice in wholesome things. In this way, step by step, we purify the mind.